everybody to Alpha Access. We got over 200 people in the stream right now. Love to see it. Welcome. Happy Friday, everybody. This is our first live stream. We're going to be doing these on a weekly basis. Give you guys some updates, highlight some ecosystem partners, and talk a little bit about Origin between our monthly community calls. So excited to get started. We have a lot to cover. Today we have Silo Finance joining us, but before we talk about Silo Finance, I want to give a few updates about Origin. So we're going to get into that. Let me share my screen. I know Powell's talking right now. I'm not sure exactly what he said, but I think it was something good considering ETH is now above $4,600. So really cool to see. My screen's now up here. So let's get started with Origin token. So OGN has been hot recently. I wanted to dive into this shortly since a lot of people have been asking about OGN over the past week. So I wanted to dive into just a few updates. Right now we're at almost 37% staked, and we have massive staking APY right now, around 50% APY, and that's all funded by buybacks. So I want to give a quick update on OGN buybacks, what's happening with Origin tokens. So let's get into it. If you guys want to follow along, I am on originprotocol.com/OGN. So you can use this site to follow along with buybacks and other OGN metrics. But first of all, we'll just take a note of the price right now. We had a really strong week. We started the week off right around 6 cents. We're at 7.5 cents right now, market cap around $50 million. And I want to dive into what's driving this price action. So something, if you guys have been following along, that we've been talking about a lot recently is the OGN buyback campaign, where 100% of protocol revenue now goes to buying back OGN on the open market and is distributed to stakers. So what's really interesting about this 50% staking APY for max locked OGN is actually none of that comes from new emissions. So that entire staking reward APY is coming from buybacks. So no new emissions, all the buybacks from protocol revenue are being used to distribute to stakers for that strong APY. So as you can see, the buyback program started at the beginning of July. We had about 500,000 OGN bought back in the first couple days. We're now at over 10 million. We're actually now over 11 million OGN bought from the open market, and we're just getting started. So really excited to see this. Like I said, over 11 million OGN has already been bought back. In USD value, that's around $671,000 at an average buyback price of 6 cents. So seeing some really good traction with OGN buybacks. And we're also seeing some nice traction, not only with protocol revenue, which we'll dive into in a second, but with OGN staking. So this is the OGN staking chart. We had about 480 million staked in the middle of June. We're now up to about 520 million. So we're seeing a lot more OGN get locked up, taken off the open market, max lock to earn that staking APY that's really strong. We really saw quite a spike right around the beginning of August. And this is when staking APYs went from around 30% to 50%. So we're seeing some big players come in to max lock OGN now that we're offering really strong staking yields. So I'm paying attention to this number. We're right around 37% staked right now, and we're growing. So really exciting to see. Last note on OGN is protocol revenue. So this number is really important because all of this protocol revenue is going to OGN stakers. So as you can see, protocol revenue has been on a pretty steady increase from around $3,500 of daily revenue up to around $6,000 to $7,000 of protocol revenue. So we've nearly doubled in the past couple months, which has contributed to staking APYs. So really cool to see. Just wanted to give you guys a quick update on OGN. I know a lot of people have been asking about it recently with the price action that we've seen. And if you guys want to follow along, again, that's originprotocol.com/OGN. So that's it for the OGN update. We're going to bring Silo on here in just a minute. But before we do, I wanted to talk a little bit about the staked ETH arm. So this week, we upgraded our automated redemption manager, which now routes idle ETH through Morpho Labs. So if you followed along with the automated redemption manager, this is how it works right here. You can see in this tweet. It earns yield by arbitraging staked ETH and ETH pricing. So you're profiting from that spread, and then we redeem the staked ETH that we get at a discount 1-to-1 through Lido's withdrawal queue. So whenever staked ETH drifts from peg, the automated redemption manager buys it up, profits from the spread, and then repeats the process. So what we were seeing before this upgrade is really volatile APYs. We'd see double digits, sometimes up to 30-40% daily APY when staked ETH was volatile. But then when it holds a close peg to ETH, it wasn't really earning very much. So now we have a consistent source of yield through Morpho. And we're now partnered with MEV Capital, which is a top ETH allocator in the space. They've allocated to the ARM vault, and we're using the MEV Capital West vault on Morpho to earn that lending yield. So if you guys are interested, you guys can check out our timeline, go through this thread. It explains exactly what the ARM does. We're integrated with a bunch of big aggregators. So we're not actually winning these trades through our own app. We're integrated with 1inch, CowSwap, OpenOcean, Kyber Network. So traders on all of these different DEX aggregators will use the ARM when they're going from staked ETH to ETH or ETH to staked ETH. So we've done well over $1 billion, probably over $2 billion of volume now on staked ETH, really picking up traction. And we also have an ARM that has launched on Sonic, the Wrapped OS ARM. So a lot more to come with that. We're actually going to drop a little bit of alpha regarding the ARM later on in this call. But for now, that's going to be it on OGN updates. I'm going to remove my screen. I'm going to bring Tenzin up on stage from Silo Finance. We're going to talk a little bit about some new Silo markets, what they're up to right now in DeFi, and then go from there. Like I said, we'll drop some alpha towards the end of the call.
Yeah. Hey.
GM, welcome. How are you?
GM. Doing well. Just churning along, growing ever so slightly every day, taking it one piece of TVL at a time. But yeah, you guys are doing fantastic as well. How have you been?
Been good. Yeah, a lot of developments, especially for the ARM lately, which is arguably one of Origin's most unique products. We have a lot more announcements coming out about that soon. I know we have something right now in development, which I think we could share maybe on this call lightly. I know it hasn't been announced yet, but it would be cool to go over. But maybe we just start with Silo. What's Silo up to lately? What are you most excited about?
Sure, yeah. And just some background, I lead the BD at Silo, so I do like all of the prioritization and partnerships and really a lot of our growth strategy. But Silo, we're a risk-isolated money market. So if you're familiar with Morpho, we work very, very similarly, except we have some additional features, I would say. But yeah, at Silo, really, we've been focused on our multi-chain deployments. We've been obviously the largest market on Sonic for quite a while since basically deployment, and now seeing huge growth on Avalanche with a lot of support from multiple foundations. Obviously, Sonic Foundation supports us really well. The Avalanche Foundation has been doing a tremendous job as well. And we'll probably look to have a bigger push on Arbitrum pretty soon as well. And we're seeing things starting to pick up on that end too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been hearing more lately about Avalanche. What's going on AVAX? I know Origin right now isn't live on Avalanche, but I'm hearing more and more about it. Are there new incentives? Was there an upgrade to the network? What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, there is new incentives, but I think they're being a lot smarter about them this time around. The Avalanche Rush, if you remember back in the day, was kind of a free-for-all. It was crazy, and it created kind of this moat, actually, that Avalanche holds today. But now they're doing kind of more focused campaigns with more like clear metrics and milestones and things like that. So we think it's a good approach. And to that end, that they've obviously onboarded us, and now we're, I think, top 6 or top 7 on the network, and seeing a lot of growth, a lot of interest from a lot of teams, and also a big focus of Avalanche seems to be the real world assets and the yield bearing coins, but particularly real world assets, and we think that there's a strong use case for that in the long term play.
Absolutely, that's exciting. For those that are not familiar with Silo Finance, could you give a brief elevator pitch on what Silo Finance does and maybe why users should be interested or try out Silo?
Sure. So there are typically 2 ways of setting up decentralized lending markets in the space. There is what's called the shared pool model and the isolated model. The shared pool model is what something like an Aave or Compound use. Basically, you have all of these assets and they all sit on one contract, or well, at least theoretically, they're all inside of one system where they can all cross borrow each other. And there's like rehypothecation between all of the assets. which is great for efficiency, but you run into a problem when you try to add new assets. If you look at Aave, obviously they don't have any of the kind of higher tier yield assets, and that's for a good reason, right? If they add a malicious asset, it puts everyone else in the pool at risk, right? So the isolated approach is the opposite end of that spectrum. So rather than there being one gigantic pool with all of these assets in it, we create individual pools for pairs, much like a Uniswap pair. So let's say you have Rapto ETH paired with ETH. That means that Rapto ETH can borrow ETH, and ETH can borrow Rapto ETH, or we can also set up to be one directional. But anything outside of that asset is completely excluded. So let's say that there's a Wrap BTC USDC market and the Rapto ETH market, and for whatever reason Wrap BTC gets hacked. None of that risk transfers over to Rapto ETH, right? So you stay completely segregated from different assets, and you can choose who you want to be a counterparty to, in a sense.
That's awesome. So I know we have a lot of products that are integrated with Silo, and we see a lot of users loop assets. That's a major use case of lending markets like Silo Finance. You want to maybe explain the strategy behind looping something like an LST? I know we have Rapto ETH integrated, RaptoS, both different LSTs, one on Ethereum, one on Sonic. So maybe we could use one of those as an example and go through that strategy, because I know it can earn really high yield at relatively low risk. So we're seeing a lot of adoption for that sort of strategy on Silo Finance.
Yeah, absolutely. So at its base, a looping strategy just takes advantage of a borrow rate that is lower than the underlying yield of your collateral asset, right? So let's say that RaptoS is earning 4%. If you can borrow S at less than 4% and then put that S back into RaptoS, now you've magnified your yield, right? And so users take that step multiple times where they deposit RaptoS, borrow S, swap it for a RaptoS or stake it, and complete that loop up to 10, 15 times sometimes to create much higher yields. But do keep in mind, right, that borrow rates are volatile, right? So they do move. So they require management. If you are going to have a leveraged position, you should be able to look after it. And you should also understand that the yield can go negative when you borrow.
And I know Sonic has a lot of incentives going on right now. They have their GEMS program as well as their season 2 of their airdrop. What incentives right now does Silo Finance have, maybe on Sonic? And if you want to branch out, talk about incentives on other markets or other networks, we can go into that too.
Yeah. So we do have vault level incentives. We have a vault product, which is essentially a layer on top of our markets. And we give X Silo rewards there. Also, our vaults are included as a whitelisted asset for the Sonic Points program. So you earn a maximal amount of points when you use one of our USDC or one of our ETH, or not ETH, S vaults. And yeah, I mean, that's the extent of the incentives right now on there. I do think that they have a really good metric system for the way that they're going to do this second drop. So a lot of it has into account protocol revenue, for example, which we do really well in. And those sort of multipliers will math out to being a higher reward per TVL at the end of each program. And we saw that really in season 1 as well. Silo airdrop, for a lot of people, the Silo airdrop from our points was larger than the Sonic airdrop. So yeah.
Love to see that. All right, so Tenzin, don't feel pressured to talk about an origin market here, but I'm curious what markets on Silo you're most excited for right now, or maybe what markets you're using to earn yield on Silo.
Sure. So I mean, RaptoS is the obvious one, but I gotta say the thing that I've been really working to get up and running, and actually the market is live. We're just kind of waiting to figure out some liquidity for it to really kick off before we push it out. Is the ARM market. So we do want to enable looping for ARM, which, by the way, the way that it creates the yield is so good, because it doesn't give you basically any exposure, and it still manages to create these numbers that are bigger than honestly any other ETH staking derivative in the market. So right now we're in the process of bootstrapping large amounts of ETH liquidity, so that people will be able to deposit their ARM vault tokens and create some crazy loops.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was actually some of the alpha I wanted to drop on this call. We haven't actually formally announced the ARM market on Silo, and we've only hinted that the ARM's expanding, but I'll go ahead and share my screen, show you guys the ARM market. As Tenzin mentioned, the liquidity hasn't been seeded yet. Still considering incentives on the market if they're even needed since yield is so high on the ARM. But we are live in Silo's UI on Ethereum for ARM with staked ETH. So this you can see right here, this is the ticker for ARM Vault LP tokens. And we're doing a push to make these Vault tokens composable within DeFi. So right now, all the Vault depositors are kind of just LPing to the ARM Vault, earning that passive yield, but they haven't had an opportunity to use these tokens in DeFi. So this is going to be a major catalyst for Origin on one of our most interesting products. We've seen TVL grow from like $8 million or so a few weeks ago to $13 million. And that's all just direct Vault deposits. Now we're setting up different DeFi markets. And Silo is going to be one of the first. So this is the ARM WETH staked ETH market. Like I mentioned, we were about to route liquidity to this. Stay tuned. Probably sometime next week, we'll make an announcement. But we're working with a lot of different protocols for DeFi integrations for the ARM. So it's not just going to be Silo. Silo is going to be our premier lending market for the ARM. But something else I'm really excited about, I'll share here. It has not been announced yet, but we're working with Pendle to create different PT and YT markets for the ARM. So the adapter contract is currently under audit. We're going live with Pendle very soon. And that opens up a really unique use case on Pendle that they haven't seen before to speculate on the staked ETH peg. So really interesting stuff. If you think, or maybe you have some information that staked ETH is going to drift off peg, maybe you're Justin Sun or a whale that has a bunch of staked ETH, you're about to withdraw it from the Lido withdrawal queue, then you can assume the staked ETH peg is probably going to drift off a little bit. So it makes for a really interesting use case to lock in fixed yields on the ARM or speculate basically on the direction of where the staked ETH peg is going. So if you think that staked ETH is going to be really stable, maybe you want to lock in fixed rates. If you're predicting staked ETH is going to have some volatility in the future, you could earn leveraged yield on ARM. So we're already seeing like 30 to 40% APY when staked ETH drifts from peg. So it's very volatile. And then you can take that a step further with Pendle. So really excited for that integration, really excited to get liquidity up on Silo Finance. As Tenzin mentioned, looping is going to be really interesting for the ARM, and it's going to be a catalyst for ARM growth. So yeah, that's the alpha for today. It is called Alpha Access, but stay tuned. ARM tokens are getting composable within DeFi. So really excited to see that.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see that, by the way, because Pendle tokens and Pendle in general has always been really awesome for us, and we've worked with them closely. We might be actually the first market to have supported PT tokens in the first place. And definitely for LP tokens from Pendle, we were first. Although now they've built a solution themselves, which is fantastic as well. So yeah, we look forward to supporting that PT token as well. And something that's interesting too, right, is you mentioned that like sometimes when the peg gets off, you'll have like this crazy yield that comes in 30, 40%. What you can do in Pendle, right, is when that yield goes crazy and then the yield traders come in and they arbitrage that rate, you can lock in that rate and then you can just hold it, right? So like that you can take advantage of those small like rate movements to the upside and then lock them in permanently, or not permanently, but for the maturity of the Pendle pool, which is super, super nice and something I do personally as well. So
yeah, if you have that information and you're following along, I think there's going to be some really insane opportunities to earn yield on ETH as soon as we get these integrations. And like you were mentioning earlier, Tenzin, you have to be careful about borrow rates as yield fluctuates. But I think it would be really interesting to integrate a PT ARM token on Silo to have fixed rates. Could go crazy with looping.
Yeah. So actually, we are working on we've all basically done it, but a fixed term, fixed expiry market, fixed rate, fixed term. Sorry. So basically, fixed rate borrowing at maturity, kind of like a Pendle, zero coupon bond, but just on the borrow side. And so we're excited to see actually like use the fixed yield tokens to borrow at a fixed rate, right? And then set the maturities to the same date for the Pendle and the lending market. And then you'll have a position where you don't have to worry about it, right? Like you don't have to ever look at the borrow rate. You know that you locked it in, and now you just have to wait out the timer.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. All right. Well, we got through the alpha section. Tenzin, is there anything else you wanted to share? I could pull up my screen again if you want to go over any other silo markets. Doesn't have to be Origin related. Or if you want to share anything else on the roadmap, happy to do so now. If not, we can wrap up pretty soon here.
No, I just wanted to say that we are working heavily on bootstrapping liquidity for ARM, and sometimes, right, you have this volatility of rates. The way we're bootstrapping this liquidity, it should be very stable, right? So the amount of liquidity won't change. Just, if you are an ape, please stop borrowing past 90% utilization because you keep pushing the borrow rate out. But we will have the supply side covered, so we're excited to kick it off. And thank you so much for having us and supporting us. And it's always an amazing time when I meet up with you guys on all the conferences with Rafa. Rafa's amazing. So yeah, love my time.
I appreciate the kind words. Tenzin, thank you so much for coming on. I'll plug Origin one more time, then we'll cue the closing sequence. But guys, check out originprotocol.com/OGN to follow along with buybacks. We've seen some major movement over the past month. A lot more OGN locks have been coming in. And then stay tuned for the ARM too. We've released some content, so check out our timeline, but there's going to be a lot more announcements coming out in the next week or so. Last piece of alpha I will drop is we're making an announcement very soon with a digital asset treasury. So we're coordinating with a major on-chain ETH yield fund who is coming into OETH. So really excited for that. They're also exploring the ARM and other products. So we'll be sharing that shortly. I'm hoping today. If not today, probably Monday or Tuesday. So stay tuned. But this is called Alpha Access. So I wanted to give you guys that alpha. Tenzin, thank you one more time for coming on. I thought this was a great first call. I'll see you guys back here next week at the same time for our second live stream. But until then, guys, peace out. Have a great weekend. It's been a pleasure. I see there's over 350 people in here. So love to see that. Really stellar first stream. Until next time, guys, peace out. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye.